Elephant stands still in the savannah. The reason why will leave you in tears. The African sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the sprawling savannah. The tall grass swayed gently in the evening breeze, and the air was alive with the soft hum of nature. Zebras grazed in clusters, giraffes towered gracefully above acacia trees, and a distant herd of wildebeests moved like a shadow across the horizon. Amid this vivid tapestry of life, a lone elephant stood still, utterly motionless, as if time itself had stopped around it. This was not just any elephant. Known as Jabari, a Swahili name meaning brave one, he was a magnificent bull, his tusks gleaming like polished ivory under the fading light. His towering form usually radiated strength and purpose, yet now something was different. His posture was heavy with an invisible weight, his great ears drooping, and his small, expressive eyes fixed on something in the distance. Those who saw him described it as if Jabari was frozen in sorrow, an image that seemed out of place in the untamed beauty of the savannah. Villagers from the nearby community of Mapendo had begun to gather at a safe distance. Whispers filled the air as they observed the elephant's strange behavior. "Why does he stand so still?" one elderly woman asked, her voice trembling with both curiosity and fear. "Is he injured? Or is this a sign from the spirits?" Among the onlookers was a young conservationist named Amina. A recent graduate, she had dedicated her life to protecting wildlife, and Jabari had always been one of her favorite subjects to study. She had spent months documenting his migrations, marveling at his intelligence and leadership within his herd. But now, seeing him alone and unmoving, Amina felt a pang of unease. "Elephants don't act this way," she murmured, clutching her field journal tightly. "Something's wrong." The air grew heavy with anticipation. Amina decided to approach, cautiously stepping closer while maintaining a respectful distance. She raised her binoculars, scanning for any signs of injury, but Jabari appeared physically unscathed. His eyes, however, told a different story. There was a depth of emotion in them that sent a chill down her spine. It was almost as if he was grieving. As the sun dipped below the horizon, darkness enveloped the savannah, and the sounds of nocturnal life began to emerge. Yet Jabari remained unmoving, a silent sentinel in the night. The villagers, one by one, retreated to their homes, but Amina stayed, her curiosity outweighing her fear. She couldn't shake the feeling that Jabari was trying to convey something, a message perhaps that only he understood. Suddenly Jabari lifted his trunk, letting out a low, mournful trumpet that echoed across the landscape. The sound was unlike anything Amina had ever heard, raw, haunting, and filled with an unmistakable sadness. Goosebumps prickled her skin as she scribbled notes in her journal. What could he be mourning? She wondered aloud. Just as she was about to radio her colleagues for advice, something caught her eye. A glint of silver in the tall grass a few meters behind Jabari. Squinting, she moved her flashlight to focus on the object. What she saw made her heart skip a beat. A small metallic locket half buried in the dirt. It seemed oddly out of place in the wild savannah, and yet it was there, lying in plain sight as if waiting to be found. She took a cautious step forward, her mind racing with questions. Who had left the locket there? Could it be connected to Jabari's inexplicable behavior? And why did the elephant seem so intent on guarding this spot? The night grew colder, but Amina's resolve only deepened. Whatever the answer was, she knew she couldn't leave now. The mystery surrounding Jabari and the locket was just beginning to unfold. "What do you think is hidden in the savannah?" she whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and anticipation. "And why does Jabari stand so still? Could he be protecting something or someone?" The questions hung in the air like an unspoken challenge, daring anyone to solve the riddle that lay beneath the elephant's unwavering vigil. Little did Amina know the truth would change everything. The moon had risen high, casting a silvery glow over the savannah. Jabari remained motionless, a silent guardian beneath the starlit sky. Amina sat a few meters away, the mysterious locket now in her hand. The object was simple yet oddly compelling, a round pendant etched with an intricate design of an elephant and a tree. When she opened it, she discovered a faded photograph inside. The image was barely discernible, but it seemed to depict a woman and a young child standing beside an elephant. Amina's mind raced. Who were they? Was this locket a relic of a forgotten past? She couldn't shake the feeling that the answers lay somewhere in Jabari's silent vigil. As dawn broke, Amina contacted her team of conservationists via her satellite radio. "You need to see this," she said, describing the events of the previous night. An hour later, her colleagues arrived in a battered Land Rover, their curiosity piqued. Among them was Jonah, a seasoned ranger with decades of experience. He studied Jabari with a mix of awe and concern. "This is highly unusual," Jonah said, adjusting his wide-brimmed hat. "Elephants are known to mourn their dead, but they don't stand still like this unless—" His voice trailed off, leaving an ominous silence. "Unless what?" Amina pressed. "Unless they're guarding something," Jonah replied gravely. The team decided to investigate the area around Jabari more thoroughly. They combed through the tall grass, carefully avoiding any actions that might provoke the massive bull. As they searched, Amina couldn't help but notice the way Jabari's gaze seemed to follow her every move. His eyes were filled with an unspoken plea, as though he wanted her to uncover the truth. Then came the first clue. One of Amina's colleagues, a young tracker named Elias, called out from the edge of a dry riverbed. "Over here, I found something." The group hurried over to find a set of footprints leading away from the locket's location. They were human, but smaller than an adult's, possibly those of a child. The tracks appeared recent, their edges sharp in the soft earth. Amina's heart began to pound. "A child out here, that's impossible. Unless they're lost," she murmured. Jabari let out another low trumpet, his trunk swaying toward the tracks. It was as if he was urging them to follow. Without hesitation, Amina and the team began to trace the footprints, their senses on high alert. The trail led them deeper into the savannah, through dense thickets and over rocky terrain. Along the way they found more signs, a torn piece of fabric snagged on a thorn bush, a broken water bottle, and what appeared to be a child's drawing etched into the dirt. The drawing sent a chill down Amina's spine. It depicted an elephant, likely Jabari, standing beside a small figure. Was this the child who had dropped the locket, and if so, where were they now? As they pressed on, the terrain grew more treacherous. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the group had to ration their water carefully. But the mystery drove them forward, each new clue pulling them deeper into the heart of the savannah. Along the way, Amina couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Finally, they reached a secluded grove of baobab trees. The air was cooler here, the dense canopy providing a welcome respite from the heat. But what they found in the clearing stopped them in their tracks. There, lying in the shade of a massive tree, was a young girl. She was no older than 8, her clothes tattered and her face streaked with dirt. Clutched tightly in her hands was a small bundle wrapped in fabric. Beside her lay a shallow pit, hastily dug into the ground. Amina rushed to the girl's side, her heart aching at the sight. The child was unconscious but alive, her breathing shallow. Carefully, Amina lifted the bundle from the girl's hands and unwrapped it. Inside was a tiny carved elephant, its surface worn smooth from years of handling. It bore the same intricate design as the locket. Jabari let out another trumpet, this one louder and more urgent. The sound echoed through the grove, startling the birds from the treetops. Amina turned to see the elephant moving for the first time in days. He approached slowly, his massive frame dwarfing the humans around him. But his movements were gentle, his eyes fixed on the girl with an expression that could only be described as tenderness. "This isn't just an animal," Jonah whispered, his voice filled with awe. "He's protecting her. She must be someone important to him." As Amina tended to the girl, piecing together the fragments of the mystery, a harrowing thought crossed her mind. What had driven the child into the wilderness, and why had Jabari taken it upon himself to watch over her? The answers seemed to lie buried in the silent bond between the elephant and the girl. The group decided to rest in the grove, giving the child time to recover. As the day wore on, Amina couldn't help but notice the way Jabari stayed close, his trunk occasionally reaching out, as if to reassure himself of her presence. The sight brought tears to her eyes. "I don't think we've even scratched the surface of this story," she said softly, her voice tinged with both wonder and dread. "But one thing's clear. Jabari's not just a bystander. He's the key to it all." The night descended once again, wrapping the savannah in its mysterious embrace. As the team prepared to spend the night in the grove, Amina couldn't help but feel they were on the brink of something extraordinary. But with every answer came more questions, and the weight of the unknown loomed heavy over them all. Why did the child flee into the wilderness? Amina wondered aloud, staring at Jabari's looming silhouette in the moonlight. And what has Jabari been protecting all this time? The savannah held its secrets close, but the night was far from over. Little did they know, the truth they sought would be more profound and more devastating than they could have ever imagined. The girl stirred as dawn broke over the savannah, her small body trembling with fever. Amina knelt beside her, coaxing her awake with gentle words and a sip of water. The child's eyes fluttered open, and for a brief moment confusion clouded her face. Then her gaze locked onto Jabari, and a wave of recognition softened her features. "Jabari," the girl whispered, her voice barely audible. Amina exchanged a glance with Jonah, their unspoken questions mounting. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Amina asked, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's face. "Nia," the girl replied weakly. Her hands clutched the small carved elephant as if it were a lifeline. "Where are you from? How did you get here?" Amina probed gently, trying not to overwhelm the child. Nia hesitated, her eyes darting toward Jabari as if seeking his approval. Then, with a trembling voice, she began to unravel the story. She spoke of her village, a small, tight-knit community near the edge of the savannah. Her mother had been the village healer, known for her connection to the land and its creatures. Jabari had been a part of their lives for as long as Nia could remember, a gentle giant who would visit the village during the dry season, drawn by the waterhole her mother tirelessly maintained. But not all in the village viewed Jabari as a blessing. Poachers had long plagued the area, and an elephant of Jabari's size and age was a coveted prize. One fateful night, Nia's mother overheard plans to lure Jabari into a trap. Knowing the danger he faced, she made a desperate decision. She would lead Jabari away from the village and into the safety of the deep savannah. "She told me to stay behind," Nia said, tears streaming down her face. "But I couldn't. I had to help her." Nia's voice cracked as she described how she had followed her mother into the wilderness, only to witness a nightmare unfold. The poachers had found them, their rifles gleaming under the moonlight. In the chaos that ensued, her mother had shouted for her to run, thrusting the locket into her hands before the gunfire erupted. "I ran as fast as I could," Nia sobbed. "I didn't even look back. I don't know what happened to her." A stunned silence fell over the group. Amina's heart ached as she pieced the story together. Jabari's stillness, the locket, the child's presence, it all began to make sense. The elephant wasn't just standing guard. He was mourning. Jonah broke the silence, his voice heavy with emotion. "He must have seen it. He knows what happened." The group turned to Jabari, who stood a short distance away, his massive frame silhouetted against the rising sun. For the first time, Amina noticed scars on his thick hide, marks that could only have come from bullets. Jabari had fought to protect Nia's mother, but even his immense strength hadn't been enough. Amina approached the elephant cautiously, her heart pounding. She reached out a hand, placing it gently on Jabari's trunk. "You tried to save her, didn't you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jabari's eyes met hers, and in their depth she saw a profound sorrow that words could never capture. But there was something else, a spark of determination. Jabari wasn't just mourning, he was waiting. The realization hit Amina like a bolt of lightning. "He wants us to find her," she said aloud. "He's been waiting for someone to help him." The team sprang into action, following Jabari as he led them deeper into the savannah. The journey was grueling, the heat oppressive, but the elephant pressed on with unwavering resolve. Along the way, Nia clung to Amina, her small hand clutching the locket tightly. The carved elephant seemed to glow in the sunlight, a silent testament to the bond between the girl and the gentle giant. Hours later, they arrived at a desolate clearing. The sight that greeted them was both heartbreaking and haunting. A mound of disturbed earth marked a shallow grave, and beside it lay scattered remnants of the poachers' camp, discarded ammunition, empty bottles, and scraps of torn fabric. Jabari let out a mournful trumpet, his massive frame lowering to the ground as if paying his respects. Amina knelt beside the grave, her chest tight with emotion. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small trowel, beginning the painstaking process of uncovering the truth. The others joined her, their movements solemn and reverent. What they found confirmed their worst fears. The remains were those of a woman, her hands clutching a bundle of wilted herbs. It was clear she had fought to the end, her final act one of defiance and love. Nia fell to her knees beside the grave, her sobs echoing through the clearing. "Mama," she whispered, her voice breaking. Amina wrapped her arms around the girl, holding her tightly, as Jabari raised his trunk to the sky, releasing a heart-wrenching bellow that seemed to shake the very earth. Jonah stepped forward, his voice trembling with anger. "These poachers will pay for this, I swear it." But Amina's focus was on the girl and the elephant. She placed the locket in Nia's hands and guided her to Jabari. "Your mother wanted you to be strong," she said softly, "and she trusted Jabari to protect you. You're not alone." Jabari lowered his head, his trunk gently brushing against Nia's shoulder. The bond between them was undeniable, a connection forged in loss but strengthened by love and resilience. As the group worked to properly honor Nia's mother, Amina couldn't help but marvel at the strength of the human-animal bond. Jabari had stood still for days, his heart heavy with grief, but he had never given up. His loyalty had brought them to this moment, and in doing so, he had ensured that a mother's sacrifice would not be forgotten. The savannah, once a backdrop of sorrow, now seemed to hum with life. The air was filled with the calls of birds and the rustling of leaves, as if nature itself was paying tribute. Amina looked up at Jabari, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You're a hero," she whispered, "and so is she." The mystery had been solved, but the journey was far from over. Nia would need time to heal and Jabari would carry his scars forever. But in that moment, under the vast African sky, they had found something precious: hope. The clearing where Nia's mother lay to rest was transformed into a place of quiet reverence. Amina and the team created a small memorial, planting flowers around the grave and marking it with a simple wooden cross. Nia placed the carved elephant at its base, her fingers lingering on the smooth surface as tears welled in her eyes. Jabari stood watch, his immense frame casting a protective shadow over the site. He didn't move, as if paying his final respects to the woman who had once protected him. The elephant's silent vigil spoke volumes, his presence a testament to the bond between him and Nia's mother, a bond of loyalty and unspoken understanding that transcended species. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Amina knelt beside Nia. "Your mother was a brave woman," she said softly. "She gave everything to protect the ones she loved, and now it's our turn to protect her legacy." Nia looked up at Jabari, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "I'll take care of him," she whispered, "just like she did." Amina smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "You already are." In the days that followed, the team worked tirelessly to dismantle the poachers' network. Jonah's contacts in wildlife conservation rallied together, setting up patrols to monitor the area and ensure the safety of the savannah's inhabitants. Amina spearheaded an awareness campaign, sharing the story of Jabari and Nia with the world. The tale of the grieving elephant and the brave little girl captured hearts far and wide, inspiring a renewed commitment to protecting wildlife and their habitats. Jabari, once a solitary giant, became a symbol of resilience and hope. Wildlife experts worked to ensure his safety, tracking his movements and documenting his interactions with other elephants. But he always returned to the edge of the savannah, where Nia now lived with Amina and Jonah. The bond between the girl and the elephant grew stronger with each passing day, a living tribute to the woman who had brought them together. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Nia stood at the edge of the village with Jabari beside her. She held the locket in her hands, its surface warm from the day's heat. "Mama," she whispered, "I'll make you proud." Jabari let out a soft trumpet, his trunk curling gently around Nia's shoulder. The two stood together, silhouetted against the fiery sky, their connection unbreakable. Amina watched from a distance, her heart full. She had seen the worst of humanity, and the best of it in the span of a few days. But in Nia and Jabari, she saw something extraordinary, a reminder that love and courage could heal even the deepest wounds. The savannah, once a place of tragedy, was now a sanctuary of hope. The grasslands thrived, teeming with life, as if nature itself had been reborn. And in the midst of it all stood Jabari, the still-standing elephant, and Nia, the girl with the heart of a lion. Together they were a living testament to the enduring power of love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us all. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Amina whispered a silent prayer. "Thank you," she said, her voice carried away by the wind, "for reminding us of what truly matters." And with that the savannah settled into a peaceful stillness, its secrets laid to rest, but its spirit forever alive.